So, as promised, class, I'm going to talk you through this assignment, third assignment. I am working on grading the second exam. Hope to have those done by tonight or tomorrow. Anyway, this assignment is the affirmative negative brief. I developed this assignment for the online version of this course because since we're not meeting in class face-to-face, we can't do an actual debate, but I thought I could give you about 80% of what students who do debate get in the class by having you go through all the intellectual and research tasks associated with preparing for a debate, and that means developing the case on both the affirmative and the negative side by writing briefs. And briefs are pre-prepared arguments which lay out in written form the arguments that advocates intend to make in a debate. Now, the way I've done this, it's very straightforward. It should be really not difficult to do, and since you'll be picking the topic, it should be something that you're interested in, so there'll be no difficulty in your deciding how you want to approach it. Okay, so you'll notice it says that the first thing you will need to do is find a controversial issue that would serve as a debate topic, and you can do this by an internet search. So I'm actually going to do what I describe in this thing by going over here. Let's just hop on the internet and do debate topics, and you'll see that you'll come up with some sites that actually deal with that sort of thing. So let's go over to this one that says debate topics. Okay, and this is just a list of topics that are arranged topically by the name or the label. Not my favorite site, but I'll give you another example here in a minute. Let's look at this one, debate.org. So this is kind of interesting too, because again, the issues are just arranged topically. They're not arranged as questions or propositions. But let's say national retail sales tax. It gives you the background on the issue so that you can frame it in any way you want in terms of a proposition or a resolution or a proposition of policy. One other one that I wanted to show you in terms of the debate topics is the procon.org. Oh, I already showed you that one. Sorry. The 100 top debate topics. Okay. And these are interesting because they're set up, if you read the chapter on debate, they're set up as parliamentary topics. So they always say the House believes something. But in a policy debate, we never talk about the House. We just talk about the affirmative and the negative. So I'll just pull up the first one. The House believes single-sex schools are good for education. So the way you would express that as a proposition of policy is that the affirmative would argue that schools should be single-sex. The negative would argue the opposite. Now again, you can find any topic in any domain. It can be local, regional, national, domestic, foreign. It can be in the area of politics, economics, science, religion, education, law, justice, anything you want. The only thing is that it has to be a topic that's about a real problem that exists in the world right now, and which you can divide up the issue into a pro and a con. The pro, the affirmative, is arguing that something should be done about a problem that exists in our society today. The negative is saying that that problem doesn't exist, or that problem is exaggerated, or that problem can't be solved, or the affirmative hasn't offered a good solution to solve that problem. There are all sorts of approaches that the negative can take. But in finding your topic, you just want to find something that can be expressed as a proposition of policy. If you remember back from your Speech 101 days, propositions of policy are ones that have the word should in them. Like, for example, if I say college tuition should be free for all students in the United States, that's a proposition of policy. If I say college tuition is too high, that's not a proposition of policy. That could be debated, but it's not being debated as a policy. And in this, what you're writing is a brief for a debate based around policy, affirmative and negative. Okay? I actually give some examples here in the assignment. The United States should withdraw from the United Nations. Again, that's a very specific suggestion of something that should happen. It refers to the present system, things that are going on now, currently. The characteristics of a proposition of policy are addresses a real significant current problem for which there is a defendable solution. So you wouldn't want to say that there should be no hunger. That's something that's more of a wish, right? The proposition should be what we are doing and why about hunger. So for example, a better proposition, if you're interested in the problem of hunger, would be the United States should provide significantly more aid to African nations in combating hunger. And then you could give the pros and cons of that. So again, real, significant, current, and something that you can actually identify something that can be done about it, and have actual evidence-based debate, pro and con about that. And again, the idea is that there's another side to that issue where the other side could argue that's not true. Okay. Just to give you an example about this whole idea about the controversy, a few years ago in my class, students were having a debate about whether or not the use of cell phones in cars should be banned nationwide. So of course the affirmative ran very typical arguments about the dangers of using cell phones while driving. But the negative had lots of arguments about how beneficial cell phones can be while driving, and you have to decide who has the better evidence and which is the best offsetting argument of the two. Okay, so it should be controversial. I gave the example that a lot of times a student in a public speaking class will say, I want to do my persuasive speech trying to persuade people that they should eat better or exercise or that they should get more sleep. I mean, these are all things that are really not controversial. I mean, there might be little internal disagreements within the medical community about what to eat or how much sleep to get or so forth, but nobody's going to say that leading an unhealthy lifestyle is preferable to not leading a healthy lifestyle. So obviously you need something where both sides actually have an argument that they can make, and where the other, for example, nobody's going to defend child abuse, right? The affirmative is not going to say something like child abuse is a horrible thing, and the negative is going to say, oh, child abuse is a great thing. That would be ridiculous. Obviously, it's not controversial. However, if the affirmative had a specific policy proposal about what to do about child abuse, and the negative could come up with the answer that solution or that policy won't work, that's a legitimate debate. So that's the difference between non-controversial and controversial debate topics. Okay, there must be good evidence on either side of the controversy. So the nice thing about having the internet available to you is that when you write your case, you almost have to do none of the writing yourself. You have to just come up with the things that you're claiming and then find the sites. And when people put together an affirmative case for a debate, there's lots of extended quotes that are embedded right into the speech. And the only thing that I require is that you tell me, where did you get the quotes, okay, and something about the quality of the evidence. Okay, so for example, if you just quote something but I don't know where it came from, who it wrote it, why that person is an expert on it, why it's to be believed, why is it credible, is it a good study, is it peer reviewed, because you could find anything on the internet that says anything. You could go on a blog and write whatever you want your evidence to say and then just copy it from that blog, and that wouldn't be good evidence. So we're looking for things that, even though they're on the internet, are really good sources. So you don't have to do a lot of writing yourself. You just have to come up with kind of a structured outline of the main claims that you want to make. And one of the ways that I suggest that you do that is to use what's called stock issues, which is basically identify the problem, okay, and that means show that it's something harmful, current, significant, something that needs to be addressed. Show how the problem isn't going away. So for example, you wouldn't want to address something, for example, that will phase out over time or that's been going down on its own over a number of years. You want to go with something that we describe as being inherent, that the status quo, which is what we call it in debate, the present system, the way we do things now, kind of proliferate and exacerbate this problem. In other words, the problem is here to stay. It's not going away. We are not going to get rid of it if we continue to follow the same course that we do now. The issue should not be trivial, and the proportion should have real, that should say proposition. That my spell checker changed that, and I'll fix it right now, right on the screen. The proposition should have real and tangible elements. For example, the United States should have a national sales tax. The topic should not be abstract and philosophical. It should not deal in purely notions that don't lead themselves to evidence and proof. For example, of a topic not to debate is happiness is more important than wealth. Okay, that'd be a nice philosophical debate, but not necessarily a good example of what we're talking about. I'll probably have to fix a few of these typos here, and I'll repost this, but the assignment will be exactly the same. Okay, so once you've pinched the topic, you will write both the affirmative and the negative briefs on the topic. For the affirmative, you can defend the stock issues in support of the policy proposition, demonstrate the problem inherent in the proposition. Again, that's my spell checker changing that. I don't know why. How harmful, how significant, how urgent. Second, you should show why the problem is unlikely to go away. In other words, absent your proposed solution, the problem will persist. And third, you need to propose a plan. Finally, you need to present some evidence that the plan would work. It's easy to write this. As I said before, you simply make assertions and cite quote a source to back up each assertion you make. I always tell new debaters or students who are studying debate or learning debate for the first time, a good approach is make a claim and have two subpoints, and for each subpoint have two pieces of evidence. Okay, or make a claim and have two independent lines of evidence that support that claim. Whatever you like. You're only writing something that's essentially 2 pages long for each side of the issue, so just whatever you want to do there is fine. Now for the negative side, because you don't have the burden of proof, if you read the chapter on debate, you'll know what the burden of proof is, and also it's discussed earlier in the sections in chapters 1 through 4. You know that the affirmative has the burden of proof. So when you find your resolution, your proposition to debate, you should think about how am I going to phrase this so that the affirmative really has the burden of proof. For example, if you do something on abortion, I'll just use as an example, you would have to say abortion should be illegal as the affirmative because in the present system abortion is legal. So you couldn't say as a proposition of policy abortion should not be legal because the present system already allows abortion, and so it has a presumption. The negative side in the debate is the side that exists now. The change is inherent in the affirmative side. So the better way to express it is that abortion should be illegal. Okay? And then the affirmative would have to give the reasons why, and the negative would have to give the reasons why not. Okay? Now the negative, because they don't have the burden of proof, but they have the burden of rebuttal, if you remember that term from the earlier chapters, can do all sorts of things. And some of the things they can do are listed right here. You can attack the thesis or core principle within the resolution. You can claim that the affirmative addresses a non-harm or at best pseudo-harm. You can suggest whatever harm is identified can be addressed without accepting the proposition or resolution. You can argue whatever problem exists is going away. You can propose small tweaks, and you can demonstrate that the plan is too costly, too harmful, too ineffectual, or just too difficult to implement. So those are all things that you could consider very, very easily. The writing, the negative is just as straightforward as the affirmative. Claims followed by evidence. The claims should align with the issues and arguments that the affirmative raised. So if they said X and you have a specific answer that clashes with X, you should write that. Now remember, you're writing both sides. I'm giving you an exercise in seeing that there are two sides to every issue. So you're writing the affirmative and then you're writing your own negative in response to your own affirmative. So you're kind of splitting your mind in half. You're saying, here's the case I would make against this for this, and then here's the case that I would make against this. And you actually have both jobs. I'm going to continue this in a minute in a second video.